Welcome back to B-side Banter. This is episode 19. I'm here with Tyler, another Tyler from Tyler for the Record. You might have seen him on social media, Instagram, TikTok. You do a ton of stuff with vinyl. It's pretty much in the name. A lot of cool stuff. I love your videos. You do a great job just like putting all that together.
Thank
Love
you.
seeing all the vinyls that you're picking up. And you also do a ton of content for people that are like, wanting to start kind of
Yeah.
a setup and a collection. So yeah, I'll just like kick it over to you. You can maybe talk a little bit about maybe what started you on this kind of journey and channel and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always been into music, number one. I like in high school, middle school, I was in, rock bands, that kind of thing. I was also in
Nice.
marching band, etc. I played the drums and my band, they're called Provoke Destroy. I would not recommend looking them up because nothing crazy is going to happen. We've got a few music videos out there.
Sure.
But we tried out for a record label, didn't go super well.
Mm.
So I was in college finishing up, had to kind of pick the path of, what am I going to do? Am I going to get a real job or follow this music passion? And I chose the real job route,
Mm.
honestly. And I was trying to find something that would get me to closer to records or excuse me, closer to music still, because that
Mm.
path was kind of like going away. So I
Yeah.
started collecting records, etc. Maybe about 10 years. And I didn't know anybody cared about records.
Mm.
I loved listening to them. I had a really bad record player, but I was happy with it.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah.
And then I think about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago now, I was on TikTok and I realized that people were a video about records came across my page. And I was like, whoa, that's pretty cool. I didn't know people cared. So I like
Yeah.
joined this creators live and was asking him all these questions like, oh, you guys post about records. So cool. So I created a page, and 2.5 years later, it's kind of like a part-time job for me. So it's been a privilege and to be able to do a quote unquote job that is like your number one hobby. So it's been
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. That is amazing. That's I think a lot of people like kind of hope and dream for that, right?
Yeah.
Obviously it's a lot of hard work and it takes time, but it's really cool that that's kind of been successful for you.
Yeah.
Um it's so funny. Like we were kind of briefly talking about how we have a lot in common, and it's
Hmm.
literally hilarious. I'm also a drummer, also played in bands in high school that have embarrassing stuff. Definitely did not get as far as like trying to go to a record label, but that's so funny.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I want to talk about records. I want to talk about vinyls. And I think like a good spot to start, because I think you've done kind of a lot of this stuff, is just like talking about some of your favorite records, maybe some records that, as somebody might be trying to start a collection, is like a must have record for everybody that's starting, all of those things. So maybe let's start with like, what are some of your favorite records that you've ever gotten?
Yeah, so honestly, my first favorite record, that kind of got me into whole albums is gonna be, the Postal Service, "Give Up."
Mhm.
So it's, from the guy who is from excuse me, Death Cab for Cutie,
Mhm.
and
Yep.
he had this side project where they would send records, or mail basically across the United States, and they would, like create the beats and then he'd send it back and then he'd create the vocals. So just I thought that was so cool, number one. And that was back when I was in high school. So
Mhm.
really got connected to that album. And
Mhm.
I actually have two copies of it. One
Nice.
is located right over there on my wall.
Mhm.
It's like the 10th anniversary pressing.
Nice.
Or
Yeah.
I think it might be the 20th anniversary pressing. Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's been
Cool.
out that long, but
Yeah.
that's my number one. Um, and then as far as must-have records, first of all, I will say I think that everybody's must-have should be personal to them.
Mhm.
I don't think I don't set out to say like no record collection is complete without X, Y, and Z,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
there are the classic when you think about a vinyl record, you think about, the Beatles' Abbey Road,
Yeah.
you think
Sure.
about Michael Jackson,
Mhm.
Thriller or
Mhm.
whatever it is. So those
Mhm.
are those are up there. And then you've got to have some Pink Floyd. in
Mhm.
there. So yeah,
Yeah.
those would be my top picks.
Okay, cool. And what about like kind of I know that a big thing are like these cool pressings. Like I know a lot of people really chase after, whether it's different colors, whether it's like I know now I've been seeing all over my TikTok feed like that weird pressing where it's like the different like layers of like I don't know patterns and as it spins it like just like blows your mind. So
Yeah.
like uh do you
The
feel like
zoetrope
that's
ones, right?
the what, pardon me?
I think they're called zoetrope records. Are you talking
Mhm.
about little pictures and everything that they spin around?
Yeah, yeah.
Those are epic, yeah.
Yeah, they're crazy. And like there's also like there's ones where it's just like an image, like you know what I mean? It's like kind of an image painted on it or whatever.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of these different special ones. And do you feel like those are kind of like gimmicky things, or do you feel like those are like what is some of the most fun about the collecting side of
Yeah,
it?
yeah. So I think diehard audiophile heads would say that they're a little gimmicky, but
Mhm.
honestly, if you have a piece of physical media that is bigger than the size of your head,
Yeah.
you're obviously kind of getting into it for the physicality of it. And,
Mm.
to have something that's not just standard black, have something that is cool colors or, there's some with like liquid on the inside, which I have like
Yeah,
two
yeah,
or
I saw
three that
those.
have
Yeah.
liquid inside of it, insanely cool. And then there's some that, have like different splatter pressings, etc. All of that stuff I think is like sincerely it's epic. So from a collector's standpoint, I think if you want to collect colorful records, I think that's fantastic, honestly.
It's one thing to find like a record where you're like, "Oh, this is like I like this record, I like this album, I like this band," but then to like then see like, "Oh, it's also like, you know, 5 different colors, it's really cool," or it's got this
Yeah.
really cool liquid inside of it, or it does this cool thing. It does add that like and it's almost like the same as like when you have like the cool sleeves, like the inserts,
Yeah.
all of that stuff, like all those things, all those special anniversary things, are really cool. And then I
Absolutely.
guess there's like maybe that's like the entry. Like there's different levels of collecting. It's like the first one is like just get the records you like. It doesn't matter what they are. Just find them,
Mhm.
get them. The second is like maybe go after some anniversary records, some cool pressings, some of this are the ones you love. And then the next one is like now you're getting into like this is like a Japanese
Yeah.
pressing, and like at that point it's like you're more interested in like maybe limited edition type things, or maybe you're more interested in like the sound quality. Is this going to like
Oh
be
yeah.
something that is going to sound exponentially better than the one I have currently?
Yeah, I always think that there's levels to collecting and you can start out as a beginner thinking all the colors are awesome and I want
Mhm.
to get this variant, this one, because of it's pink,
Yeah,
etc.
yeah.
And I think that's fantastic. And then you can also on the flip side of that get into like, oh, this one's 180-gram vinyl and
Mhm.
it was remastered and it sounds like it's been a first pressing, etc. So you can
Mm.
get really deep into the hi-fi side of
Yeah,
things, or just
yeah.
kind of go with the cosmetic type. And I think there's so much room for everybody in the hobby.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and have you got like in terms of your own level of what you're doing, like have you gotten deep into it, or are you still like are you concerned about, you know, getting some of the best like hi-fi sounding records?
Yeah. Well, me as a creator, I have started from, like I said in the beginning, I started with a $45 record player that I
Mhm,
got on, I think Facebook Marketplace, basically, or whatever
mhm.
it was at the time.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I have since moved up to like a $900 record player. And
Mm,
then not even mentioning like how much my speakers cost, et
sure.
cetera, and the
Yeah.
other components. And I also have like audiophile grade headphones with a
Mm,
really nice headphone amp, et cetera. But all of that stuff is from being a creator and working with brands. So that's really the cool thing about having this hobby is being able to dive in a
mm.
little bit deeper towards that
Yeah,
hi-fi side as
yeah,
I go.
yeah,
Like I've
absolutely.
got some speakers on the way that are actually going to blow my own mind. Like
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard anything that is going to sound this nice,
Mhm.
honestly. But
Mhm.
it's cool being in the position that I am because, yes, it's very hard work making the videos that I do for these brands, but I get to experience, the cosmetic, like these speakers look cool, or this record player, or this record looks cool.
Mhm.
And then on the flip side, it's like, what this is elite sound. This is the best quality music I've ever heard as well. So it's a
Yeah.
cool niche.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Um, and yeah, it definitely is, like, I think it's like any hobby, the deeper you get, the more you start, like, to spend a lot of money, and, like, the more you start realizing, like,
Yeah.
wow, this stuff, if I wanna keep going deeper, this stuff is going to be very costly, and, like,
Yeah.
yeah, you start to hunt for very specific, like, records, very specific pressings,
Yeah.
wherever they, like, maybe you're looking for something from Japan, maybe you're looking from, yeah, I don't know what it is, but, like,
Right.
what
Right.
I mean, you're just kind of, the hunt then starts to get really intense, and I know a few people that are in that kind of world, and it, to
Yeah.
me, I'm like, that's so cool, like, I wish I could start doing that, but it's like, I think right now I'm in, like, maybe level 2, where I'm like, I know the albums I love, and having a regular pressing of it is cool, but if I could find, like, an anniversary pressing or something that's a little more, like,
Yeah.
sentimental, like, that's where I'm like, "That's really cool."
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
and then I guess the next step after that will be to, like, upgrade the whole system, and then it's like, "Okay, now I'm getting into, like, these preamps, and I'm getting into
Yeah.
all this stuff that is just about pushing every ounce of good sound out."
Yeah.
Which, yeah, it's super cool. It's like a cool place to be. But
Yeah.
definitely, like, you get there with a lot of, research and hard work into getting,
Yeah.
those things sorted.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I try to do a lot of videos about, what should beginners do, or what is the best
Mhm.
equipment for a beginner. Because I think that
Yeah.
a lot of people are not at that hi-fi level, and it's hard to get to that hi-fi level. Like, I don't
Mm.
think my personal setup would look the way it does if I wasn't a content creator, just because it costs
Mhm.
so much money, and all these records cost money, and the
Mhm.
equipment,
Mhm.
etc. To get to this point is pretty overwhelming. So,
Yeah.
number one, that's why I make a lot of beginner content videos, because
Yeah.
I think there's a lot out there who are interested and they don't want to spend an arm and a leg to get to the level that I'm at. And number two, I think it's important for somebody to stand up for all the people who are kind of bashing on people for, maybe they have a suitcase player, or maybe they
Yeah.
just, they have an Audio Technica LP60, which is like a very good basic turntable, and I endorse it, but other people are like, "Oh, you need a Technics, or something that's from your
Mhm.
grandma and that has been reserviced, and you put $500 into." There's a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
people out there
Yeah.
who are pretty
Mhm.
mad, I guess I'd say, for
Yeah.
beginners coming into the hobby and liking all of the cool pressing colors, etc.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, and you kind of find that in so many different areas in everywhere, but, like, music, for sure, like, you think about, like, guitar players. You've got the guitar players that are like, "I only play hand-wired tube amps," and, like, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, and then you've got the guy that's like, "Yeah, I just use this, like, Boss, like, huge pedal that I just, like, put digital programming into, and that's all I like, you get this in
yeah,
all spheres of music, like production too. Like, you've got all of these, like, beginner people coming into, like, the music production scene, and they're able to make songs on their laptops, and then you've got, like, the diehards that are like, no, everything has to be analog. Everything, like, I need the best amps, I
yeah,
need the best all this stuff. And so it is an interesting, like, it is an interesting hobby to get into, and then once you, like, start getting into the community, then you're kinda like, "Oh my, like, which community do I wanna be a part of?" Like, because
yeah,
the community is welcoming to a certain degree. Like, if you're gonna be the audiophile, you gotta, like, you gotta jump into that head first, or or they're gonna be like,
yeah.
"What are you doing here? Get out."
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. I've gotten a lot of comments. Obviously, on social media, there's a lot of comments, positive and negative, and not as many negative as some of my other friends. But I think it's because I'm pretty confident in myself and can kind of stand up and just think logically, like, this is for beginners, like
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
reason it's for beginners, probably the
Hmm.
price point and etc. So,
Yeah,
but yeah,
totally.
there's a lot of that in this niche too.
Let's talk about beginners a little bit. Like, you kind of mentioned, Audio Technica LP, whatever, 60. I don't know. I don't really
Yeah.
know the models, but for a beginner, what would you recommend? Somebody that's like, hey, I've bought a couple records because I just like these artists and they've released these records, and I'm just like, hey, cool, that'd be cool to have. But now I actually want to start listening to them and get some more. What would you kind of recommend for a setup for somebody that's just starting?
Yeah, yeah. So I get this question all the time, and happy to answer it because it's makes me excited. So my recommendation is the Audio Technica LP70, which is also their newest model. So it's basically
Mm,
the LP60 with a couple upgrades. I put a
sure.
video out on my page, and I worked with Audio Technica through that, but I honestly have endorsed their LP60 for the last 2.5, 3 years as well,
Mm,
because I had an Audio Technica LP60 for I think 7 years, and it was fantastic. So it's not going to be the
nice.
best sounding thing in the world, but it'll definitely get the job done. So,
Yeah.
and then for speakers, I would recommend the Edifier R1280Ts,
Mm,
which is non Bluetooth, but the R1280 DBs are a Bluetooth version of that if you are into
okay.
Bluetooth. But as always, I always say with record collecting and vinyl, you don't want to listen with Bluetooth just because it will dull down the quality a ton.
Yeah.
So it's not worth it if you can avoid it. But if that's
Mhm.
what you have to do, then by all means. But yeah,
Yeah.
so Audio Technica LP60 and then the Edifier R1280Ts.
Nice. I don't know if I've ever tried. I don't know if I've heard of the brand Edifier before, but there's so many different like I don't know. There's so many different speaker brands out there now that it's like it's hard to know. But that's a good recommendation. Um,
Yeah.
I honestly got my setup at like a used. There's like this like used kind of like bookstore, record store, CD. Like they've got everything comics. And so I just went in there and I was
Oh,
like,
nice.
what I had was like basically like this junky old suitcase record player that we had more for like a
Hmm.
decoration than it was to even use. If that like it just kind of set up.
Yeah.
And we'd listen to a record here and there, but then I was like, I kind of want to actually like get something nicer. So I just bought a couple things from this place. Um, it sounds, to me, I think it sounds fine for what I'm looking at. Obviously, if I want to get
Hmm.
a better like it, if I feel like once we get into a different location, I'll probably like decide let's upgrade this. Let's get a little bit better speakers.
Yeah.
Let's invest a little bit more. At this point, it's doing its job, and that's fine with me.
Oh,
But
yeah.
yeah, I think that's just kind of like the season I'm in, but it's definitely like I've looked at the Audio Technica line for sure because I think they just have such a robust um like everything that they do is quite nice and they have great
Yeah.
options
They
for
they've got
quite affordable.
headphones. They've got
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
good,
it's
and they have
it's
a
definitely good.
long-standing, relationship just with audio in general, so they've been
Mhm.
around a long time, so kinda,
Yeah.
like, trust the name. I know there's a lot of companies, and I've worked with a lot of companies who are gonna put out, this is, like, their first record player they've made, and,
Mm,
it's just a
yeah.
random brand, etcetera, and those can be fine for starting out because 'cause they'll
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
they'll tick all the boxes, but just something with a name that you can recognize is a little bit, more promising.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's really good. And then like, if they're starting out, like, do you feel like there's a need for kind of some of those vinyl, like the accessories? Do you feel like that's kind of necessary starting out?
Well, I think it all depends on how much you want to take care of your collection in general. I
Mm,
didn't get so when I'm talking about this stuff, I'm talking about like a record cleaning kit, number one, and number two, like proper storage with inner and outer sleeves.
mhm,
So, I started out not cleaning my records for years and then not storing them properly, as far as like inner and outer sleeves go. But I learned, kind of when I started making content that, oh, that you can store these better. it'll be
Mm,
better for them. And I looked at my records that I had at the time, and I was like, wow, these are filthy,
yeah.
so I should have been cleaning them. But it honestly is up to the individual collector. Like, do you care that much? Because for me personally, it is honestly fun to take care of my collection. Like, people have hobbies and they can, if you're into cars, you like cleaning your car, you like working on your car, etc.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
like that for me with vinyl records. I care for them. I have an ultrasonic cleaning thing at just right there actually.
Oh, nice.
Um,
Yeah.
and then I've got, a quick cleaning kit, et cetera. It's just all fun for me. And it honestly does
Mm,
make the quality of your records better, yes, too. So I think
mhm.
it's up to the individual for sure.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Kind of moving on to like the music side of records. What are some like artists or bands that you kind of just set in your mind? I want to get every single album they've ever put out.
Yes. Okay. So there's too many of those bands, unfortunately, because I'm a lover of music and just all
Yeah.
kinds
Yeah.
of genres of music.
Mhm.
So my tops are Manchester Orchestra,
Mm.
which I think I have every album from Manchester Orchestra. I even have a Christmas album from them. So,
Nice. Oh yeah.
and I
Nice.
I just completed that. I think like 3 weeks ago. I got Simple
Okay.
Math by Manchester Orchestra
Mhm.
as my last one I needed.
Nice. Okay.
Um, and then as far as other bands, so City and Color, I think I rounded out their collection as well.
Mhm.
When I say I rounded out the collection, I don't mean like little 7 inches and stuff. I mean full
Yeah.
albums
Yeah.
because
Sure.
if
Yeah.
I was going after everything, it'd be impossible.
Yeah.
But
I know that would be crazy.
yeah. And then let's see, A Day to Remember is another one that's one of my tops. And I don't think I've rounded out their collection as of yet. I think I have
Mhm.
like one or two more records from them.
Okay.
So yeah, those would be my top three for sure.
Okay. How many albums does A Day to Remember have? I don't.
Oh man, they might have like 6 or 7. They just put
Okay.
out one.
Okay.
And I made a video for it. I don't think I worked with the brand on it, or maybe I
Mm.
did, but either way, every member of the band reposted it, so I was pumped. That was
Nice.
like
That's awesome.
childhood
That's
me
so cool.
was really
Yeah.
excited. Yeah.
That's amazing. You
So,
gotta love that.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And then yeah, but I think like 6 or 7 at least. So,
Mm. Mhm. Nice. Um, yeah, it's really cool when you're kind of chasing these bands like yeah, their vinyls or records. It gets a little complicated when you're like after maybe some older bands because at some of
yeah.
them that's all they were putting out were records, so they put out so many of them. And it's like yeah, you could just
Yeah.
go after like just the albums, like for example the Beatles, like you could just like let's just get the major albums, but there's so much more, like there's just so many different
Yeah.
like little albums, compilations, like they re-release stuff in different packaging and like it's just so
Oh
crazy
yeah.
to and then
Not to
obviously
mention
with the
like solo projects, like where do
yeah,
you
I
draw
know.
the line
Yeah.
for a specific
Yeah.
band, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's
Yeah, for
tough
sure.
for sure.
Did you know that City and Colors Dallas Green was in a band called Alexis on Fire before City and Color?
I did. Yes.
Okay.
And
Are you a
I
fan of
think I
them?
listened to them back in the day, and I don't think I
Okay.
cared for it too much, but honestly, I need to like get around to it again just because of how much I love Dallas Green,
Mm,
and I'm
mhm.
sure I would
Yeah.
like it. But I haven't
Yeah.
so he's got another project. I think it's called You and Me. He did it with Pink,
Mhm.
and that I've listened to a little bit, but I'm like, I think it's almost like, and again with Manchester Orchestra, I haven't listened to his side project as much. I think there's
Mm.
a Right Away Great Captain, I believe it
Yeah.
is. But
Yeah, Right Away,
the
Your
side projects
Captain.
I try to, not get into as much just because there's so much
I
other
know.
music
It
to
is.
listen to.
It's yeah, it can get
Yeah.
pretty crazy.
I'm
I think he also did, Bad Books, I think, and Andy Hall, I think, did,
yeah.
like, a project. Yeah, anyway, yeah, it does get
Yeah.
complicated. I just wasn't sure because that's kinda what started him, Dallas. Like he was in Alexis on Fire before he started like his solo stuff, City and Color, and it's just so different.
Yeah.
Like there's no resemblance at all,
It's
right?
I
Because
think it's heavier, isn't it?
it
Is
is.
it a little
Oh yeah,
heavier?
it would be like it would be punk, but it would be kind of like punk core. Like it'd be kind of like punk and
Gotcha.
metal or punk and screamo a little bit. Like it's like yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty heavy. Um, so
I
it's
need to go back and listen to that because I
yeah.
obviously saw their name everywhere, like growing
Mhm,
up, as well as
mhm.
like they're one of my favorite bands, so I still everybody brings it up, etc. So I just need to
Yeah.
give it the time of day for sure.
Yeah, for sure. We need to talk about Manchester Orchestra because I was telling you earlier before we hit record that it's very hard to find people that would consider them to be one of their favorite bands. And I would do that. I don't know if they would make my top 5. They probably would, just because of the longevity of how long I've really been following them.
Hmm.
Started, like, in early high school, and it's carried to even now. Like, I know that they're working on new music currently, so, um,
Hmm.
it's like it probably would be just because of that longevity, and I haven't lost interest. Like, I've had other bands that I've followed and I still follow, but, like, some of their albums, I'm like, "Nah, like, that wasn't great." Like, there's, like, 2 or 3 albums, I'm like, "Those weren't great albums," but I just find, like, Manchester Orchestra always anytime they've put something out, I've just been like, "This is great." I don't know if the
Yeah.
sentiment is the same for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I got into Manchester Orchestra, and this kind of segues into another thing as well, that I am a very big album guy. Like
Mhm.
listening to full albums and
Yeah.
especially impactful albums.
Mhm.
So I went back when I was in the band. We were on a tour of the East Coast. We were going towards. I think we were going down to Florida, and it's like that drive is really long. I think we were going
Mhm.
from like Georgia to Florida,
Yeah.
and it was in middle of the night, and my guitarist put on the album Cope by Manchester Orchestra,
Great
and
album.
I was like, what is this? This sounds
Mhm.
like kind of weird,
Mhm.
just the voice and everything is so distinct. And
Yep.
then he was like, dude, just give it a chance, listen to it. So obviously long drive, we listened to the whole thing, and by the end I was like, dude, play that again. It was
Mhm.
incredible sounding, like,
Yeah.
just so first of all, I fell in love with it there.
Mhm.
And then when I ended up quitting that band, I picked up a couple records, and I think that was one of the first. I think I had like 10 records for a period of years,
Mhm.
and that was one of those 10. And
Mhm.
obviously being a band that I actually cared for, because a lot of the other ones, I'd picked up at thrift stores, or were given to me from my dad, etc. But that was one of the ones that I sought out and I bought. So
Mhm.
playing that one for, well, I've had it for at least 10 years now, I believe, and playing that one over and over when I had it, only 10 records for that period of years, just like stuck with me, ingrained in me. And so
Yeah.
that was number one, like probably my top 5 albums all time. And
Mhm.
then from then on, I just fell in love with everything else they did.
Yeah. Yeah, I started kinda listening to them. I was a really big fan of a band, and you might have heard of them because they've been in the same, like, circle for a little bit, but Thrice. I don't know if you've heard of Thrice or
Oh
not.
yeah.
So
Mhm.
I was a really big Thrice fan, and that's when I heard about Manchester, because they would do a lot of shows together and stuff. They still actually do. They just went on a tour in Europe together.
Oh dang.
I kinda started listening to them with their album, and I'm gonna check the name because I always get names wrong. Means everywhere
Me
everything
too.
or every Means
Everything to
Everything to
Nothing.
Nothing. Yes, that's the one.
There you
So
go.
that was, like, the
Yeah.
first album that I kinda caught of them, and then obviously I went back to their album before that, which I'm not even gonna try to remember the name, I can't remember it. I didn't get into that one as much, I still liked several of the tracks on it, but I really liked,
Yeah.
um, mm yeah, I really liked the Means Everywhere or man, I'm still, like
Means Everything to Nothing, I think. Yeah.
that's it, yeah, Mean Everything to Nothing. Gosh, and they don't help matters by, like, kind of making tongue twister album names.
No.
But anyway, that was, like, the
I
first
will
one.
say I'm the worst with album names and,
Yeah,
song names. Don't even
I
ask
know.
me, like, so no.
Yeah,
I know the
I'm the
picture on
same
the
way.
front and the band's name. There
Exactly,
you
yeah,
go.
yeah, I could immediately I recognize it immediately,
Yeah.
by the picture. So, yeah, that album, I loved it, loved basically all the tracks on it, and then they just kept obviously releasing new music, and, they would have come out with Simple Math after that, I believe, and then Cope, and then,
Mhm.
um, The Black Mile to the Surface, and then is it Million Miles to Nowhere or Somewhere or something like that?
Million
Um,
Masks of God, I
oh,
believe.
Million Masks of God, that's what it is. Yeah, Million Masks of God,
So
which
have you listened to their most recent, I believe it was an EP, and I'm not gonna remember the name of this either,
mhm, I
of
did, yeah.
actually Valley of Vision?
Yeah, Valley
Yeah,
yeah, I think that's what it's
that
called. Yeah, Valley Vision, yeah. Yeah, I did. I did
there you
listen
go.
to it. I was like, it definitely, like it left me wanting more, like, I was kinda disappointed that it
Yeah,
was just an EP. I wasn't as big of a fan of it, maybe because of that very reason, that it just felt like there should have been more to it. Um,
yeah,
I I absolutely, like, loved, The Million Masks of God.
oh, yeah,
That that one just blew me away. I listened to that so much. But I would say, like, ultimately, my all-time favorite of theirs is definitely The Black Mile to the Surface. I just think, like, it's
yeah.
such a whole album. It's a masterpiece. Like, they just yeah, I don't
The
know,
first 2, like, it was like a intro and then Into the Gold is the
yeah,
song's name. It's just
mhm,
pure, like I saw them live for, I think, the first time. I think I've only seen them once with my
mhm,
wife, and she's a big fan too,
mhm.
and, that's hard to get her to be a fan of a band that I like, so that's big.
Nice. Yeah,
But,
that's huge, yeah.
yeah, and so we saw them, I think they opened up with it 'cause I believe it was right after that, album was released,
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
intro, Into the Gold, and I just got goosebumps, like, that song is just perfection in my eyes or my
Yeah.
ears.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah,
Yeah.
that, like, 3-song run there at they have 2, like, really good 3-song runs. I think the first track is called The Maze, isn't it? It's, like, The Maze, The Gold, and
Mhm.
then The Moth or The Mute? No, The Moth. Yeah, it's those 3
Yeah, sounds about
songs
right.
I think are just amazing. And then, one of my, like, all-time favorites too, like, I really like the Alien, Into the Sunshine, Into the Grocery too, but,
Oh, yeah.
um, The Silence, there like, that last song is, like, I can't I can't get enough of that,
Oh, yeah.
and yeah, we saw them live recently, they were co-headlining with Jimmy Eat World, and,
I wanted to go to
it was
that so bad, I don't think it came near me, like, at all,
oh, no.
so I
I
was
know, don't
bummed,
you hate when
yeah.
that happens? Yeah, I hate when that
Yeah.
happens. Yeah, but we caught that, and yeah, just all of those songs, hearing them all live, it's just yeah, you're kinda like, "This is so amazing," like, it's just a cool experience. But yeah,
Oh,
that
yeah.
like, that band shaped me so much, just in what I liked, and, like, they were very experimental, like, they started out really just, like, kind of pretty purely alt rock, and then they
Oh,
just
yeah.
kind of allowed a lot of other components to come in once they like, they got a lot more kind of like getting into kind of the synths and loops and all that
Oh, yeah.
stuff, and like they just they haven't stopped, and they've been really good at experimenting and somehow staying the same but being different.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well said, like, and going back to their EP that they just put out, I think it's not just put out, like, it was 2 years ago now, I believe, at least,
Yeah,
but, it's going from their first 2 albums to that one is like night and
yeah,
day,
yeah.
completely different.
Mhm.
It has kind of trained my ear to be open for other things as well, growing with the band,
Sure.
so I think it's just they've got such a wide range.
Mhm. Yeah. I definitely think so. Yeah, super cool band. I love Andy Hall's voice. Like, yeah, like you said, it's so
Yeah.
like as soon as he starts singing, you're like, sheesh, like, yeah, this like I'll never forget this
Yeah.
voice. Like it's like
Yeah.
nasally, but in like the best ways. It's not like I don't know. It's just
Yeah.
such he's got a
There
great
was
voice, great range.
When I saw them live, there was a heckler that was, like, up in the balcony right next to the stage, And for like the
Mm,
first two songs, I'm like in all, like, this is my favorite band, like my favorite
mhm,
two songs are playing, etc. Every little break that the band did where they completely stopped playing, you just hear his voice only. The guy was
mm.
shouting. And I was like,
Oh
dude,
god.
you're
Yeah.
crushing the vibe right now.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
think the bassist even was like, get out of here, was like yelling
Yeah.
at him and stuff and got him kicked out. So
Mm.
that was quickly rectified. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's just,
Man,
you
frustrating.
gotta let his voice breathe like that. It was so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, he's got a really great voice and range, and yeah, it obviously live, he doesn't have any issues kind of
No.
doing what he's doing on his recorded stuff, which, sometimes people record at their peak and take, several attempts at tracking that recording, and then it's like really tough to replicate that
Yeah.
live, but that's not the case with him. He's got it.
Yeah.
Um
That right there was the downfall of my band.
oh yeah.
So
Oh
I
no.
won't go into that anymore. But yeah. Yeah, I just had some rough times, yeah, with the
Mm.
microphone area.
Yeah, that's tough. Like
Yeah.
that is a tough thing. It's really hard to overcome that, when you, as like fans, when you get used to something you're hearing recorded and then you want to hear that live, or like on top of that, like sometimes
Yeah.
people get used to it being better live than recorded, right? And so
Yeah.
yeah,
'Cause
it's
there's
it's
like
tough.
adrenaline, there's, being on a
Mhm,
stage, having all of that,
mhm.
the people looking at you, etcetera, it just pulls out a different person sometimes,
It does,
so
yeah, yeah,
hard to
yeah.
replicate that for
It
sure.
is. It is really tough. One person that I've heard a lot of stories of that is just like an insane vocalist that, I think a lot of people would be like, yeah, that makes sense, but maybe not at the same time. Like they wouldn't. He's kind of unsuspecting. Is Caleb Followell from Kings of Leon. Like just
Oh.
just goes into a recording, lays down his vocals in one or two takes, doesn't need any more. And then live, it's just like he's hitting every single note. It's like, yeah, I don't know what it is about it. Like he's got a great voice.
Different
It's
breed.
not, yeah, like I don't know. He's got a great voice. It's not like you would put him in like a list of like best vocalists ever, but like it is that, like, if when somebody's able to, yeah, just be on tune, be on pitch, and always
It's
be able
it's
to be
tougher
there.
than it sounds, like,
Oh, it is. It's so hard. Yeah,
especially
absolutely.
if you're on the other end and you have the headphones so you can hear everything. Like,
Mm.
everybody thinks they sound great in the shower, you know what I mean? Singing
Yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff like that.
totally.
Like, it's
Yeah.
hard to judge yourself, if you're the one singing, etcetera. So, like, on the
Yeah.
other side, if it's sounding that crystal clear, that's tough to do. So,
Yeah. It is
yeah.
really tough. Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, so, and I don't know, like, how did you ever, like, kinda get into some of the stuff that they did? Like, not their side projects, but they did a couple, like, features, like, they did, shoot, I think it's Bottle Rocket with Briston Maroney. Did you ever hear that song
No.
that Manchester did with
I
him?
I think I've listened to one or two of their, like, features and stuff, but no, I
Mhm.
don't think so. I've heard of Briston Maroney. I don't think I've ever listened to his stuff, though, but,
You should check
I've
him out.
heard a lot of people are higher on him.
Yeah, you should check him out. He's really good. I really like I call his genre like surf rock. I don't really know what people would do. They probably just put him in like indie, but it's like kind of this
Mm.
surf rock. It's like really like kind of uplifting type of music with, like pretty bright and light electric guitars.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, it's a lot of fun. But I kind of discovered him through Manchester. Also, like another guy that's kind of local, here in Nashville. He's just put out an album. Is Michigander. I don't know if you've heard of him or not, but
Yeah,
he
yeah.
did he did a feature with Manchester. I forget what it's called now. Um, but both of those, I was like, oh, that's so cool that they're like kind of working with these artists that are like quite a bit like obviously at the time, especially, like not nearly like up on their level. So there's just a lot of cool
Right.
things that they do, and they do try to really support, you know other artists and stuff. So yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So, and another artist that came to mind, it kind of like the same unique voice vibe, and we were talking about, being on stage, etcetera, and also featuring on other people's stuff. Have you ever heard of the artist called, Medium Build?
Medium build, I don't think so. Is this a new
Yeah.
a new
He's
artist
got like
or been around?
I think he's been around for maybe like a year or two. He's only got one full length album, and I
Mhm.
believe maybe two EPs. But
Okay.
he's got like he's been described as like like testifying on stage, basically, just like him and a guitar, and he just gets so into the music, and
Mhm. Yeah.
so his first album, and I fell in love with the whole thing. It's called Medium Build. Country is the album, but
Mhm.
he's not a country artist, and I always say that
Okay.
because I don't really care for
Yeah.
country too much,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
but, I know you're from Nashville, but
Hey,
but,
I'm on the same boat with you. It's a hard place to be in when you don't really like country that much.
yeah, yeah, I feel that. Yeah, I visited, I think, like, 6 months ago or something, and yeah,
Oh, nice.
it's definitely yeah, it was beautiful
Heavy.
and stuff, yeah, but
Yeah.
but Medium Build Country is the album, and it's fantastic. He's got definitely like an indie vibe. Kind of like
Cool.
I think the album is with a whole band, but he's got some acoustic tracks on there, and just really feel like you're listening to him as a person. It's just really
Mhm.
cool.
Yeah. No, that's I'll have to check 'em out. Medium build, right? That's what you said?
Yeah.
Nice. On that theme, what are some albums that you have been listening to lately? They don't have to be new, but if they are new, but what are some albums that you're like, these are really cool?
Yeah. So let's see. So many are going through my head, but I'll honestly have to throw out the Turnstile album, the new one. It's
Yep.
called Never Enough.
Mhm.
Fantastic. So
Mm.
I've been in my history. I used to be in a hardcore band as well, and that's
Okay.
kind of where their roots are. Rooted in
Mhm.
hardcore. So I
Yeah.
think I either played shows with them or went to a couple shows back in the day from
Mm.
them, and they're much different band these days,
Yeah.
but that album I can't stop listening to. So
Mm.
that one, fantastic.
Mm.
Um, and then I have to throw Sleep Token out there. Even in
Mhm.
Arcadia, I believe is the album name.
'Kay. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
album is fantastic, and I didn't like the band before this album came out. It's just
Oh, interesting,
like
yeah.
the work on it is as
Mhm.
far as the drums, as far as the vocals and the
Mhm.
production on that album,
Mhm.
especially listening to it on an actual vinyl record is
Mm.
like fantastic. So
Yeah. Is this,
yeah, those two are the top that I've been listening to.
is this their yeah, this is their latest release, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I see the cover
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
I see it. I see it and I recognize it. Uh, like I said,
Oh
I'm so
yeah.
bad with album names. Um, yeah, that
Yeah,
those are
yeah, same.
both,
Yeah. And I'm surprised that I've been decently okay today. But yeah.
yeah, no, you're getting it. You're rocking. Yeah, those are both albums that I've only listened to the Sleep Token once. I need to revisit it. But Turnstile, I really like that. I thought that they really knocked it out of the park there. Um, I don't know if you've heard
Definitely.
I don't know if you've heard the new Viagra Boys album or if you've heard of them as a band at all.
No,
Um,
I haven't
it
actually.
really interesting if you kinda like something, like, a little more unique and interesting and kinda weird at the same time. Um, I think it's just a
Definitely.
self-titled I think it's just self-titled. I don't think that it's got a different name to it. I think it's just their self-titled album,
Well, with
but,
a name like
um
Viagra Boys, what else are you
yeah,
gonna name your
exactly.
album?
I know, yeah, you gotta cut yeah, you're like, the pressure is on to,
Yeah, yeah.
like, come up with, like, a new cool actually, it's something yeah, it's I don't know, they took some letters out. No, it's Viagra Boys, but they just, like, put a space in between the R and the A of Viagra instead of I don't know, it's weird. Anyway, that's their new album.
Interesting.
It's pretty cool. I've been listening to that a lot, and that's one that I've been like I want to find this vinyl, which I'm in this weird space right now where I'm not like ordering a vinyl, like because like obviously I could just go to their website and order the vinyl, like it'd be as
Right,
easy
right,
as
right.
that, or even probably Amazon. You know what I mean? Like I could probably order it in
Yeah.
a bunch of different places, but like I'm in this like space where I'm like, no, I want to go to the record store and get a vinyl. Like, I don't know what it
Yeah,
is.
that's
I don't know if it's just a phase and I'll, like, grow out of it, but I'm just, like just kind of the hunt
no,
of it is really cool.
it's not a phase. So I will say in the vinyl record world, we call that finding it in the wild. And
Mm,
that's just like
okay.
an unbeatable feeling, honestly. So I
Yeah.
have done that with a ton of records. Like there's ISOs that I have and I could buy it online for $100 right now, but
Yeah,
there's no
totally. Yeah.
chance that I'm
Yeah.
gonna do that because number
Mm.
one, $100 for a record is a lot.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
it is.
number two, finding it and not expecting to find it and
Mhm.
just seeing it for the first time is just incredible, honestly. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
there's
that makes
no
perfect sense.
cooler feeling than that. Honestly, at the, like, local record shop that I've got here, it's, like, really close to my house, they're only open 3 days a week, and they do this, like,
Wow.
little tease, which is, like, so, like, horrible, but great, but they do this little tease on Instagram every Thursday evening and Friday morning right before they open where they flip through their new arrivals, so you can see
Yeah.
what they've got, and then, of course, if there's, like, a record you're really looking for, it's like a mad dash to get there as soon as they open so you can get it.
Yeah.
Um, but at this spot, I don't know if, like, somebody just decided they wanted to ditch all their Manchester Orchestra stuff, but I found, the Black Mile to the Surface, like, and Means Everything to Nothing, and, Simple Math, and Cope all there, like,
Oh,
just sitting there,
wow.
all used, but in great shape,
Oh,
and I was
wow.
like, "This is crazy," and I was just, it's that cool thing of, like you said, finding it in the wild. You're just flipping through the new
Yeah.
arrivals, and all of a sudden I'm like, "Oh, man, gotta get this record," and then, like, a couple later, another Manchester, and then I'm like, "What is going on?" Like, somebody either just, like, decided they hated them all of a sudden, or I don't
Yeah.
know what happened here.
Just clearing out
Anyway,
their collection. Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
guess so.
I will
Yeah.
say, like, that is, first of all, number one, that's unusual, especially for the band.
Yeah.
To find Manchester Orchestra albums out in the wild is pretty
Mhm.
unusual unless it's like their
Yeah.
newest release.
Yeah, totally.
And then number two, to find just like, so my record shop, my local one, does that same thing where they'll get like
Yeah.
used ones in and say, "Hey, emo fans, these records are here," and they'll do a little flip through, and I'm like, "Ah, I gotta get there now."
Yeah, yeah,
So when you find somebody who has, for whatever reason, if they need money or they're just over the records, etc., who has dumped their collection and it's like your perfect music taste. Number
yeah.
one, that's a bad combo because you're going to spend a ton of money. But number two, it's just
Yeah,
so much
yeah.
fun.
Yeah, it
Like
is. Yeah,
it's so cool.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know what it was, and maybe it's because we're so close, like, because they're like Atlanta band, right? So maybe it's because we're like so close to
yeah, I think
Atlanta
so.
that, like, I don't know, maybe there's like some more fans here that are like decided they needed. I don't know. It was weird. I never would have thought, like, it's one of those bands that I'm like, I don't think I'll ever find their records. I'll probably have to like buy them used, like, I mean, buy them on like
Yeah,
Discog or something like that.
yeah,
So it's like I never would have thought that I would find anything like that. Yeah, some of my other bands that I really love, like, sure, I probably would find, a record here or there of theirs. But yeah, it is a pretty cool feeling, and it kind of fuels this, like, almost addiction of, like, I gotta hunt. I gotta go
yeah,
everywhere, and, like, I need to be, like, at the record store Friday at 10 as soon as it opens, like.
yeah, yeah, for sure. No, it's so I've got this. They're called ISOs, in search of. So I've got this number one in search of that I cannot find anywhere, and I don't think it's, I don't know. So it's called Two Door Cinema Club Tourist History,
Mhm.
and it is hasn't been pressed since I think it came out, and it's
Okay.
going for,
Yeah.
if you can find it for $120, like that's an incredible deal, and it'll be gone like that,
Mm.
and that's
Yeah,
only
yeah.
on Discogs or eBay, etc.
Sure.
Um, and then today they teased out like, oh, this song from this album has got X amount of billion streams or whatever it was. It was a ton of
Mhm.
streams on this one song that's like their most popular on that album. And
Yeah.
of course they put a video of it and the album art came up and it like, kind of circled in and I was like, "Oh, are they going to release? Are you going to do a repress of it because I'm going to
Mm.
snatch it like that?" But
Yeah.
no, they didn't. They were just
Mhm.
talking about the streams and stuff, but if
Man.
so I
Yeah.
always check the teas for Two Door Cinema Club,
Yeah.
and it's like a fantasy to find it in the wild like
Yeah,
that. It'd
yeah.
be
Yeah.
insanely cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. That's such a funny, like, I guess I never would have thought that that would be, like, there wouldn't be enough of those out in the wild. Do you know what I mean? Like there's
Yeah,
certain like
you don't think
certain
about that.
bands, certain artists that you're kind of like, yeah, I'm sure I could find it. And it's probably like pretty cheap, but then you like start doing some digging. And you're like, oh my gosh, like no, this actually is like really hard to find and
Yeah.
might be a hunt that I have for a really long time.
Yeah, there's another one that's from a band called Sworn In. They're like a metal, pretty metal band, hard rock, etc.
Mhm.
They put out I don't remember the actual name, but it was their first full length album, and they're not a band anymore. You know, they didn't
Mhm.
do very much. They put out like one
Yeah,
or two albums and they quit.
yeah.
But because they put it out and it was so limited, it's like I probably like 200 plus dollars right now for just
Man,
one
wow.
record for a band who doesn't exist
Yeah,
anymore. You know, it's
that's
just
so crazy. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And then on the flip
Abs-
side, there's records that I have, I think up here maybe is my sell pile. There's records
Okay.
that I have up there that are like that cost like $6 and they were put out 2 years
Mm,
ago. You know, it's just
yeah,
the value
yeah,
has plummeted.
yeah.
Like, so
Sure.
it's a risk.
Yeah. Yeah, and like anything that's like a hobby that becomes popular, you get like you get people, investors that come in and like start spiking prices up for people. You know what I mean? Like you get investors coming
Yeah.
in and they're trying to buy first editions of Beatles albums and all this stuff and like
Oh
and
yeah.
obviously that's expensive to begin with, but once that starts, it just makes it so that it's like it yeah, you're like trying to find maybe some albums from like bands that you would be like, yeah, this shouldn't be rare and this shouldn't be like expensive, but then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I guess it is. It is rare and it is expensive.
Yeah.
Um and it's kind of disappointing sometimes that way, but then I don't know, that's just how these things kind of ebb and flow as popularity kind of gets
Yeah.
pushed into it. There's more people that are buying and then yeah,
Yeah,
it can get a little frustrating.
there's this, thing called Record Store Day each year, and it's in April, which it's a
Mhm.
day and they have one in on Black Friday as well. You know, there's 2, but
Okay.
the main one's in April, and it's a every one day a year, and it's the day where you're supposed to celebrate local record stores. So you go, you line up really early, and there's exclusive releases that are released only on vinyl record, only on that day,
Mm,
generally,
yeah.
with some exceptions. But there's long lines. Like people, I got there this past year at 4 a.m. You know,
Mm,
and there's only limited amounts of everything. So it's like a
yeah.
first come first serve situation where
Yeah.
like you might not get what you're going there for, etc.
Yeah.
But a big issue that they've had in the last I guess since I don't know, since Taylor Swift kind of made records a little bit more popular, etc. The big issue that they've had is people going in there only to buy the records to then flip on, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
Discogs or you know
Yeah.
Facebook Marketplace or you know
Yeah.
eBay, etc. So they'll like the record that maybe costs $17, you know, because it's
Mm,
like a little single. It
yeah.
might cost $500-600 same day on
That's
eBay, and
crazy.
it's like sold
Yeah.
out everywhere.
Yeah.
So, kinda makes it
Wow.
not fun.
Yeah.
So that's kinda
Yes.
controversial, you know,
Mm.
but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I know too that there was like on the flip side of this, and Taylor Swift kind of played a part in it, but it was like ultimately I think Travis Scott was like the fuel that or maybe the straw that broke the camel's back was like selling like $5 records to boost their sales to like stay on the number one charts or get their album to the number one charts. And it was
Interesting.
like a big thing in like hip hop. Like Taylor wasn't doing it for $5. Like hers were
Right, right.
expensive. Like usually when she puts
Oh,
out like
yeah.
special releases or like the Tortured Poets department, like all of those different variations, they were all like 40 and above, right? Like they weren't
Yeah,
cheap to
yeah.
buy. But like Travis Scott and a bunch of other hip hop artists were on their websites selling all these different variations of their records that they were trying to push to number one for $5. And it was
That's
like this
wild.
big thing, and it turned
Huh.
into this whole like issue because like obviously they got so many sales and it was like it took forever for them to like ship them out and blah, whatever. But then eventually Billboard was like, hey, you can't do this anymore. You're like are basically artificially trying to pump your sales. Like, and so they made a rule
Oh,
that like
yeah.
they won't count um any records that are sold for under $15 as like a sale.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I did not
which
know
is
that,
pretty
but that
crazy.
makes
Yeah.
makes perfect sense. So I know in hip hop a lot, and I know it's two specific releases, and I kind of did work with both brands on these releases, but they're putting out records that are not complete, in
Mm,
or first week in order to boost sales, and it's like your standard black record, and
mhm.
they might not be, like I think one of them had like half of the songs that were on the actual record that you put out, and it's like,
Wow.
why would you do that? You're just trying to
Yeah.
inflate the sales in the beginning.
Mm,
It's tough because a lot of people want the record, especially if it's a vinyl record, on release day. So if you're
yeah,
not gonna make
yeah,
that available and then they're putting out half of the album, and then at a later date, they're putting out like a deluxe version of it, so you have to buy
mhm.
it twice kinda thing. It's just a little
Yeah, yeah,
interesting,
yeah,
but on the flip side of that,
yeah,
there's people who put out 10 variants of a record,
yeah,
and
exactly, yeah.
you're expected to buy all of them to inflate their sales, etcetera, so
Yeah, yeah, and, like, the whole, like, music industry now where the expectation is you release a deluxe, like, 3 to 6 months after you've released your album is, like, starting to get people frustrated to some degree, like, just because you're like, "Hey, I bought this album," and then, like, you're, like, about to listen to it, and then they're like, "Yeah, I dropped a deluxe," and you're like, "Are you kidding me?" Like,
yeah,
like, I guess I have to buy the second one if you really like that artist. Like, obviously, if you really love that artist,
yeah,
you'd probably buy it anyway just to support them, but, like, for somebody that's just like, "I like this album, I just wanna have it," and then they drop the deluxe, you're like, "Well, that kinda sucks." Like, now I gotta go out and get the
yeah.
deluxe, I guess.
Well, that happened with me with Noah Khan.
Oh,
I
yeah.
fell in love with Sixth Season, bought
Yep.
the album, even, and
Mhm.
it was really hard to find. So you had to find it in the
Yeah.
wild for like $40 for a
Yeah.
standard record. And then
Yeah.
I think I know he ultimately put out, We Will All Be Here. I'm looking at it. It's on my wall right now. We'll All
Mhm.
Be Here Forever. That
Yeah.
version is
Mhm.
like basically 2 albums, but he put out 2 other like a deluxe version before that, etcetera,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
then there's one with all of his features on it as well,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
like, you gotta as a collector, you've gotta draw the line somewhere,
Yeah.
unless you don't and you just spend all this money, but it can
Yeah.
be overwhelming for sure.
Yeah, and it's just funny from, that's like, from that vinyl standpoint, it's frustrating, but then it's also just funny, like, Noah Khan, if it feels like he's been touring and promoting that one record for 10 years. Like, he hasn't,
Yes.
but it's been a while, and
Right,
he's
right.
still, like it just feels like it's been forever, and you're like, "Just write some new music, man," but he, like I don't know,
Yeah.
obviously his marketing department, like, knows what they're doing because he's, like, one of the biggest artists right now, so
Yeah, insane. So, I first of all, I love that album, and my wife does
Mm.
too, which is hard to do,
Yeah.
like I mentioned
Mhm.
earlier, to get her to like a
Yeah.
band like that, but I think it's interesting. It's been like 5, 6 seasons technically now, since he put it
Yeah,
out.
yeah,
But I
that's
mean,
true,
it's
yeah.
only been out for 2 years, etcetera. But yeah, it's time to, I guess, move on, and but at the same time, I understand music business. You have to really hone in and
Mhm,
capitalize
mhm.
on what is making you get to the next level, and his team has absolutely done that. So
Yeah.
kudos to
Yeah,
them for
for
sure
sure.
on that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, and then he also dropped we actually just bought my wife loves Noah Khan, like, one of her favorite artists, so we just bought his, like, live at, Fenway, I think,
Yeah.
is where it was.
Yeah, yeah, Fenway.
S so we have that, on vinyl, which is like, obviously, it's different because he's playing other songs too, but it's pretty much just
Yeah.
Stick Season with some other songs.
Yeah, yeah,
But it's great,
exactly.
like, it's understandable when you love an artist like that, you do wanna kind of get all of those things, and sometimes you do kick yourself for not, like, buying it at the time because then it's like, "Oh, now it's impossible to find." I'm, like,
Yeah,
super
absolutely.
jealous of I just saw your video of, Angels and Airwaves, I Empire. I'm
Yeah.
so jealous. Honestly, that's another album that, like, just I was a big Blink fan. Yeah, no, I was a big Blink fan, but then, like, when Angels and Airwaves, specifically that album, I didn't really care as much for whatever the one before that was, which I forget the name of. Um
Mhm.
but when I Empire came out, we listened to that so much, and then just seeing the pressing of that, and I was like, man,
Yeah,
what a record.
that's a Interscope Vinyl Collective exclusive. So they put
Yeah.
out like a record each month, and sometimes they're complete misses, in my opinion. But other people
Mhm.
might, think they're fantastic, etc.
Right.
But then sometimes they just hit so good. And that one,
Mhm.
when I saw it announced, they announced it like a month before, and I was like,
Yeah.
dude, this is insanely cool. The pressing,
Yeah.
packaging, and all
Yeah.
of those records that they put out, like going back to talking about physical products, like the quality of those releases for IVC is like next level, like premium
Mm.
packaging, foiling on the package. Like they come
Yeah.
with extras. Like that one came with like little cards and stuff like
Mm.
that. It's
So
just
cool.
so
Yeah.
cool. So yeah.
Yeah. That's really cool. Yeah, it's actually kind of funny because I'm almost done reading Mark Hoppus's like memoir that he just put out. So like
Oh yeah.
he references like Tom going off and doing Angels and Airwaves and how much like of a big deal that was and how much like it's just funny
Oh
because yeah,
dang.
I'm such a Blink fan and like obviously they had their drama where they broke up like multiple times. So it's
Oh yeah.
like yeah, it's so funny. I followed like all of their side projects like Tom DeLonge did like Boxcar Racer. I don't know if you heard of
Yeah.
that or not.
Yeah. I've
So
got one of their records as well.
dude,
Yeah.
that's so cool. And
Yeah.
then Mark and Travis did Plus 44, um,
Oh,
which
I've
was
never
like
heard of that.
yeah, it's you should check it out. It's like it's not amazing. It's like super like it's like yeah, really happy but like kind of dark. Like Mark was in a really dark place and he was writing these dark lyrics, but like the music itself is like really
Oh yeah.
uplifting,
That's pretty
kind
cool.
of like really peppy. Um but yeah, anyway, when I saw that Angels and Airwaves, I was like, man, that looks awesome. So now you've got me hooked to like see what they're
There you go.
doing every month. So I like went back and looked at all the ones that they've released, and there were a few that I was like,
Yeah.
whoa, that's cool. And then there's others, like you said, there's others where it's like obviously just like I don't really care that much about that band, so like whatever. But
Yeah.
like,
And full disclosure, I feel like I should say this. I do work with Interscope
mm,
on those, releases and stuff. But honestly, there's some that I'm like, oh, cool, this is nice to have. But there's some just like that Angels and Airways ones that blow my own mind, and that's
yeah,
like truly
yeah.
my opinion on it. So
Yeah, absolutely. No, I it blew my mind. When I saw it, I was like, "Dang, I need to get that." And I was like, "Oh, sweet, sold out."
yeah,
Yeah,
they go so quick, and then
I'm
they
sure
will
they do.
be going for a pretty penny after that too. So
Oh,
it's
I know they
wild.
will be. Yeah. Yeah, I know they
Yeah.
will be. Yeah, cool. Well, we've been going for a solid hour here. It's been a lot of fun. I'm just super, happy and appreciative that you were able to come on and just talk some
Absolutely.
vinyl and talk some music, especially talk Manchester Orchestra because I just don't know if this will ever happen again. So I
I
might
don't know
have
if I'll ever
to
have a question or a conversation about Manchester Orchestra that deep with anybody. So that was
yeah.
awesome. So
Hey, hey, they are working on new music, so I might have to have you back on when they release it for some
oh,
thoughts
definitely,
for sure. But yeah,
absolutely,
super
that'd be cool.
cool. Yeah, also City in Color. I don't hear a whole lot of people that are really like big City in Color fans. That like my wife's favorite band for a long time was City in Color. She's really just like deep into folk stuff. We've seen them a couple times
Oh,
or
nice.
seen him a couple times play. So yeah, just really cool to have those. I love having conversations with like people about bands that I haven't talked about for a long time. So it's a lot of fun.
Oh yeah,
I
definitely.
appreciate you coming on. Yeah, and like I said, maybe when Manchester releases their next album, we'll have to have you back on talk about it.
I'm down. So you know where to find me. So there you
Yeah,
go.
totally. No, awesome. Well, yeah. We'll see you guys next week, listeners. If you're out there and you don't follow Tyler already, which I'm sure you probably do, Tyler for the record on both Instagram and TikTok, right?
Yep, Tyler dot for the record.
Dot for the record. Do you? I don't know if you're on YouTube or not.
I am. So I have like
Okay.
700 subscribers. Trying hard on YouTube, but
Hey, man.
YouTube's another beast. But I'm having
Yeah.
fun. So there's a lot of
Yeah.
vlogs on there of some
Yeah.
some cool
No,
stuff,
it's
and yeah.
That's awesome. Cool. Yeah, follow him everywhere. And yeah, if you're looking for a startup, like to start up a record collection or what you need to start, he's the guy to go to. Lots of great beginner tips on there, and lots of great intermediate and advanced tips too. I've seen a lot of stuff that's really great. So yeah, check him out. Cool. Well, that's pretty much it for this episode. And join us next week for another episode and another guest. All right. We'll see you guys later.